Well, thank you so much for joining us all today. Um, my name's Emily Merton. I am a consultant in the learning team at Bailey and French. I have a background in psychology with a master's in occupational psychology. So my role here is very much here to support with the design and delivery of more of our bespoke solutions for both public and private sector organisations. I'm also joined by my colleague Ariel. Do you want to introduce yourself, Ariel?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Emily. So I'm also a learning consultant at Bailey and French as well. Also with a master's in occupational psychology, actually same university that Emily got her master's from. And yeah, my background is previously in psychometrics, but I've recently joined Bailey and French on their kind of design and delivery in terms of our solutions. So very much enjoying working here.
Yeah, and it's lovely to have you with us. So thank you all so much for joining today. We love sort of running these regular webinars. It's so nice to have everyone together and share your thoughts and your questions around humanizing the workplace. So for those of you who perhaps haven't heard of us before at Bailey and French, our mission is to humanize the world of work. So essentially, we help to empower organizations with strengths based, human centered solutions that help leaders and teams and people to ultimately thrive in the workplace. So that's essentially what we do. As I mentioned before, you'll be able to use the chat today to interact with myself and Ariel and each other as well. And do ask questions if you have any, and we'll try our best to answer them as we go along, or we might come to them at the end. But we're both monitoring the chat, so we should be able to get to those. Expect from today, the purpose really is to provide a short introduction, I guess, to what each and every one of us can do to create a human experience in the workplace. So no matter sort of what leadership level we're at, each one of us can help to improve awareness around strengths use. And we'll be talking about that and understanding what actually it means to humanize the world of work. So hopefully you can see my slides as well. I guess embracing what it means to be human and leveraging what we are brilliant at, we believe is truly the core to thriving at work. So I think there's a real need to move towards this more human experience at the moment, particularly when we are constantly facing change and challenges in today's world, and with AI coming up as well. It's really important to think about how we can keep our humans switched on. And we'll go a little bit more into the research findings on the impact a human experience has in just a second as well. First, in true BNF style, we'd like to start with a positive starter. So we always start with a positive starter to help to reframe our mind and just get us reflecting on the topic in hand as well. So to get us thinking a little bit around what we mean by a human experience, pop your responses in the chat. What things make a workplace feel more human? So please do share your thoughts in the chat. It'd be really interesting to hear what you think about this.
Oh, we've got a comment in. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we've got some coming in. Do you have any thoughts, Ariel, whilst people are having a think?
I would say having some levels of autonomy. So it could be from little things like what my desk looks like, or being able to work kind of in various areas around the office so I can have some different scenery, just feeling more present and more, just more positive environment, I guess.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, someone said yes, plants. Yeah, lots of plants.
Which makes it feel more comforting, doesn't it? The environment. We've got really loads of great comments here, though. Recognizing individuality, being ourselves, absolutely. Work relationships, getting to know people as individuals, 100%. I think we spend a lot of our lives at work with our colleagues. So, it's keeping it human is actually getting to know them as a person, not just their professional, but also a little bit more around their personal life as well. Yeah, we've got
There's a really
some.
nice comment in here. Displaying genuine interest in others' passions, what's important to them at a personal level. I think that's a really good one.
I love that. That sort of ties into, I guess, what we're talking a little bit about today is around strengths. So definitely people's passions, but again, what energizes them? What do they enjoy, and how can we leverage that to support people? Love that. We've got transparency, fun environment, lots of laughing. Definitely, that's something that we achieve here at Bailey and French. Lots of giggles always in the office. And the other comment, I'd also say making sure colleagues are okay. Yes, if they seem down, then encourage them to talk about it. I love that. Thank you so much for all of your contributions. Brilliant. I think we've got a pretty good understanding, I feel, of what makes a workplace feel more human. My job is done. No, I think we'll be talking about that more today, and giving you some tips on what we can all do to really humanize the workplace, using our strengths particularly. So I just want to touch on the use of positive psychology that we apply here at Bailey and French in order to create that human experience. So positive psychology, this focuses, I guess, more on what works well and the notion of thriving, instead of perhaps focusing on people's weaknesses and that traditional deficit-based psychology approach. So it really considers people's well-being, their strengths, their unique strengths, and also emotional intelligence. So these are all concepts that underpin our work here at Bailey and French. And we're going to talk a little bit more around this in a moment. But firstly, so what do we actually mean by a human experience? If we take a bit of a step back and look at that on an individual level, but also what does that mean for teams? What does that mean for leaders and organisations as well? So on an individual level, this means that there's an environment where people are able to play to their strengths and feel like they have a voice and that they belong. So that psychological safety aspect here. Within teams, when we foster that human experience, this means that teams are more meaningfully connected to one another and are able to maximize diversity of thought, to collaborate effectively as well. And within leadership, and perhaps on an organizational level as well, we have more purpose and value driven organizations, and leaders specifically are able to be their authentic self. So this is a really key element that we work on a lot here at Bailey and French, that authenticity. But leaders are also able to develop trust within their teams and actually role model a culture that's positive and celebratory of each person's unique human strengths. So that's a real snapshot, I think, of a human experience across those three elements. And I suppose just to underpin that with a bit of research and evidence, because everything that we talk about at Bailey and French and all of our solutions are based on that empirical evidence and that research to give that grounding. So I wanted to just bring that in a little bit here. So when we actually dial up the human experience in the workplace, we do see a real impact. On an individual level, we're seeing an increase in performance and well-being, and also an increase in confidence and self-esteem. With teams, a human experience pushes engagement and productivity by quite a significant amount, actually. And for wider organisations, we have lower staff turnover, a reduction in absenteeism, and an increase in sales profit productivity as well, with overall greater organisational agility. So a really long list of positive impact that comes from a human experience in the workplace. And please do keep your questions coming in if you have any thoughts at any point or any questions. We'll be monitoring the chat there. So I want to think a little bit more around what each and every one of us can be doing to create that human experience. And we can do this by diving deeper into human strengths. And this is actually a really easy way to help humanize the workplace when we focus on strengths. And when I say workplace as well, I mean across the entire employee life cycle. So whether that's onboarding, recruitment, all the way through to development and career growth as well, we can apply this notion of human strengths to humanize each aspect of that. So a few more questions put to you. Perhaps choose one or two with the time here to reflect on, and please do share your thoughts in the chat again. It's really lovely to see them all coming in. So what things do you do so well that you are very successful every time you do them? What activities do you naturally look forward to? When do you feel in your element or in a state of flow? And what makes you unique? For example, what would you want someone who perhaps doesn't know you yet to know about you? So I'll give a couple of minutes for you to think about those and try to identify a few answers to a couple of those questions. And please do share in the chat as well. Do you have any thoughts, Ariel? We've been talking about strengths a lot in the last week, haven't we?
Yes, we have. We have, definitely. I think in terms of when I feel in my element, probably when I'm able to absorb lots of information, a bit like a sponge.
Love it.
Always right with getting things wrong once, but then, you obviously learn from that. So I'm very open in that sense to absorbing knowledge from
Mm.
people. I'd consider that a strength.
Mm.
Got some others coming in. I look forward to meeting new people and building relationships. Oh,
Love
that's a
that.
good one. Very interpersonal strength.
Yeah, we've got building rapport as well, positive working relationships, same
Yeah,
sort of
similar.
concept there. Problem solving. I'm actually pretty good at predicting interview outcomes. That's a great
Mm.
strength. I feel in my element when I've worked with a group of people to achieve something meaningful.
Mm.
That's brilliant. I wonder what that is sort of within that. What is it that you that makes you feel in your element? Is it sort of the working with people side, or is it perhaps the outcome side? That's interesting. I love collaborating, looking forward to meeting and greeting new people and sharing my experiences.
Mm.
This is great. Thank you, everyone. Keep your thoughts coming in. What makes me unique is in my workplace is being able to ask the difficult questions.
Mm.
That's really important. I think that's quite a rare strength, actually, if that comes sort of
Definitely.
very easy and natural to you. Yeah. So it's really interesting. We're going to be talking a bit about strengths, and already we have such a mix of strengths on this call today.
Mm.
Um, so we're going to be talking about actually how can we leverage each other's strengths. Um, it's a really simple and easy way actually of how we can start to humanize the world of work is to start to understand strengths within others.
Yeah. Someone's put their accent as one of their potential strengths.
Oh
It's quite
yeah,
a unique one. Connecting with people as
definitely.
well.
Love that. Yeah, so we've got around creativity as well. My colleagues always say that I'm willing to help them out and can often answer their questions. That's great. So you've received a bit of strengths-based feedback there that you've taken on board. I love that. Amazing. Thank you. Keep your comments coming in. It's really great to kind of just take this moment, take this space to reflect and think about your strengths and perhaps how can we sort of dial them up? How can we leverage them a bit more? Always responding with an upbeat attitude. Brilliant. That's great. Thank you. Well, we're going to be coming back to how we might be able to use our strengths more. And I think I've mentioned the word strength a million times in this webinar, but that's what we're getting at when I'm asking you these questions, because reflecting on the things that are energizing for us actually helps us unpack our own individual strengths. So, for example, what strengths are underlying what we do well, or the activity which we find flow. Strengths are often those motivators that are underlying those activities. So, in terms of defining strengths, strengths are well used neural pathways that our brain uses as shortcuts to navigate the world we live in. They're energizing to us. We can use them tirelessly, and they actually develop over our experiences from birth to 17 years old. So, as our brain develops through all life experiences and challenges and conversations, that's when we develop our combination of strengths. And they're also completely unique to us as well. We all have a completely different combination that we come to rely on. They're also enduring and enjoyable. So that when we're using our strengths, we're happier at work, and we're confident, and they're easy to use as well. Trying to discover our strengths, it's easier to perhaps think of those activities that come natural to you. What are people saying? What do you gain energy from? Because your strengths are underlying in those. And actually, this can be really different for everyone. And I always use the example of baking to kind of illustrate that strengths are so different depending on the person. For example, I don't know why I use the example of baking because I'm absolutely terrible at baking. I don't know if you're any good, Ariel, but just to use an example, Ariel and I perhaps could be very skilled at and energized by spending the afternoon baking, for example. I might enjoy sort of the preciseness and the attention to detail on decorating the cakes, whereas Ariel may enjoy the creativity and the experimenting with different flavors. So we've got someone here that loves baking. That's good. We're both doing the same activity here, but our underlying motivators are different. So our strengths might be different here. So perhaps mine is attention to detail, but Ariel's could be creativity. So it's really key to think of why those activities are energizing and enjoyable to us, and that can help you discover your strengths. A quick one on what strengths are not as well. So interestingly, strengths, they're not the same as skills. Skills are things that we do well. We don't necessarily enjoy or feel energized by our skills. Strengths are also not the same as knowledge. That's more reliant on our memory. And strengths are not things we just enjoy but aren't necessarily good at. So we do need that combination of enjoyment and skill for it to be a strength. So baking is definitely not a strength for me. So in terms of more generally humanizing the workplace using positive psychology and the concepts that we focus within that, human strengths is something that we have at the core, at the center of everything that we do when we aim to humanize the world of work. And that's across the whole employee life cycle, as I mentioned. So we really want to empower people to discover and leverage their own and each other's strengths in different contexts. So perhaps a tip for you on the call, and this is applicable to all leadership levels, and whether you're in a leadership position or not, we can all play a role in using a strengths-based approach in order to humanize the world of work. So I'd encourage you to reflect on your strengths further. When do you feel energized? What comes easy and natural to you? What do you think your strength could be that's underlying those activities? And when thinking about your strengths, try to use your own descriptors as well. Unlike sort of psychometrics out there where they might provide a list of strengths, we encourage you to use your own vocabulary, use your own descriptors, so it really feels personal to you. And it also helps to try and summarize your strength using one word as well. So I'd encourage you to keep that reflection going. when humanizing the workplace, we apply the PERMA model plus R, which is the resilience part, and focus on creating inclusive spaces as well. So again, a top tip to help create an environment where people feel safe to experiment with bringing their own strengths to work. When people are able to use their strengths, they feel happier, they feel more engaged, and they experience higher levels of well-being. So perhaps think about what could you do to really create that environment where people feel comfortable to bring their strengths to work. To then humanize the world of work using strengths at that more team level with collaboration, we focus on the concept of flow, developed by Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. But we apply that concept of flow to teams so we can all utilize our strengths together and experience flow as a collective. So, again, thinking at that team level for you, perhaps start spotting strengths in others and give that strengths based feedback. That really enables everyone in the team to start leveraging each other's strengths. And we can actually easily spot strengths in others by looking for various clues. So if someone's perhaps speaking more fluently, if they're more expressive, their eyes are lighting up, using gestures, leaning forwards, those are really subtle clues that perhaps someone's talking around or using one of their strengths. So try and perhaps be more curious and observant of those things. And then finally, using emotional intelligence, we focus on human leadership to humanize the workplace for those in those leadership positions across all levels. So if you're a leader on the call today, perhaps embrace the vulnerability of showcasing your unique strengths to your team. It can be really difficult, but I think role modeling a strengths-based approach to others is really powerful. So perhaps I would encourage to think about how you can do that more in your role. So we've talked about what humanizing the world of work means on both the individual, the team, and the leader organizational level. We've talked a lot about strengths, and I've given you perhaps a few top tips to start utilizing your strengths in order to humanize the workplace, specifically around well-being, teams, and leadership as well. So I think at this point it'd be useful to start making those action commitments on what we can actually do now to humanize the workplace and share those with others to increase accountability. So I'd really encourage you to pop them in the chat and share those actions that you set yourself with others. So what's the one thing you will do now to utilize your strengths more and humanize your workplace? And sometimes it helps maybe to think of a task that's coming up for you, something more specific, and how you might be able to approach that differently. So again, do share your thoughts in the chat.
Emily, have you got an action commitment that you
Putting me on the spot now.
use?
Yeah, I think I need to create more space for myself to consciously think about my strengths. I think it's really easy when workload is high and the time just runs out in the day to actually stop and think, have I used my strengths today? So I think maybe that's a good thing. Maybe at my lunch, I'll give myself 10 minutes just to reflect and think about what strength I really want to leverage today. And then I might be able to do a bit of job crafting to be able to leverage that strength.
Yeah,
Perhaps
really
that's just off the top of my head.
Oh, we got reflect on what the strengths are below the activities I enjoy. Oh, so
Nice.
looking deep, that's a good one. More reflective.
Love that. Got bring key skilled people together to achieve more collectively. Yeah, definitely. So, again, like finding out what strengths you have in the team. Can we bring certain people in at certain points to really make use of their strengths, and also so they can use their strengths, because we're all happier and more energized when we're able to use our strengths at work.
Mm. That might even be a skill that's just on being able to bring people together, and being that kind of
Mm,
interpersonal, collaborative person. You might be that key that is a source of that collaboration.
definitely. Yeah, we've got schedule regular reflective time to stay in touch with my strengths and look for opportunities to maximize them in my work. Yeah, I definitely agree with that one for me as well. I'm moving into a new manager role, so it'd be great to be able to talk all of this into the new role and team. I love that. Yeah, I wish you all the best with your new role. Strengths-based approach is something that's actually really is quite simple, really, but the impact is huge when you're able to role model that and emulate that out into your team. So
Mm.
that's really great to hear. Got a few more coming in, sharing tips or nuggets with colleagues on how to stay motivated when they are feeling deflated. That's great. It might just be calling everyone together after lunch, quick fire. What are your strengths? How can we use them this afternoon? I think you'll find that that actually really does increase the energy. We've got connect experts and learners together to connect through skill development. Brilliant. And use some of these questions in staff PDRs to engage more conversation around utilising their strengths and therefore engagement and happiness in their workplace. Amazing. Yeah, exactly. This approach can be applied to all elements of the employee life cycle. So that's a really great one.
Mm. This last one's really good as well. Welcome colleagues back if they've been off sick to see how they are, or welcome them back from holidays and taking an interest in where they've been. Another really simple one, but could have a huge impact on that person.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you so much all for your contributions. It's been really lovely to hear all of those actions. So try and hold yourself accountable, I guess, to them. Try and see if you can achieve them by the end of next week. So set yourself a bit of a timeline. It helps. But I will also just recommend a few resources that might help when you're wanting to embed this more within your team, or if you're wanting to just learn a little bit more around strengths. So we have some free resources on our website, all different kinds of formats, videos, articles, blogs. So feel free to go in and have a little look. On LinkedIn as well, we do post regularly and also hold other webinars on different topics. We had a really interesting one around psychological flexibility with Alex Bailey, our founder. So she was talking around how we might be able to use our strengths and navigate the world in which we are in, which is constantly changing. So that was a really interesting one. So do look out for those. And then a few books as well, if you're interested and like a good read. The Martin Seligman one on Flourish is a great one, and then a couple of others there more on strengths. So I hope you found that helpful and interesting. That does bring us to the end of the webinar today. I'll leave that slide up just in case you want to take a picture of any of those resources there. But thank you so much for joining today. It's been a pleasure. And thank you again for all of your contributions. Do get in touch if you have any questions as well.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming.
Thank you all.